Everybody, welcome to cast. Jake, Micah, your friend Jake here with Slick Al as we look back and then move very quickly forward to Bills Ravens. Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. What more could you want in a football game than Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen? Seriously, like what more could you really want?
Uh, that's a great question because I don't have much of an answer for you. I mean, this is prime football. It's kind of criminal on the NFL's part that they're doing this, putting us with this game to be slated at 1 o'clock Eastern. Um, Seems like your perfect time to just go ahead and throw the Bills on prime time again, but no, 1 p.m. Eastern. That's okay. Still going to be a great football game, and two of the best QBs in the league going head to head, two MVP candidates, nonetheless.
Um, Quarterbacks in the same draft class. I mean, there's storylines all about. We'll get into all of them as we talk Bills Ravens. We're gonna look back a little bit to Bills Dolphins and just put it to bed. Forget it, as the Dolphins are about to kick off in about an hour's time right now, actually, for their next week's game, which I'm sure a lot of Bills fans are going to be interested in. But let's get to our sponsors. Cross Podcast, as always, sponsored by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? I mean, what more can we say about Outlet Liquor? Go get down there. Anything you need, they will have for you for Thursdays, Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, whatever night you're watching football. Outlet Liquor is the place to be. And with that liquor that you're going to pick up at Outlet Liquor, head over to Picasso's Pizza. Picasso's Pizza, the cup and char pepperoni. We can't say enough. Slick still hasn't sent me the Picasso's Pizza, but
it's on the way.
Right. It's on the way. It's on the way. Best wings and pizza in Buffalo. Hit up Picasso's, make your pizza any way you want. And Slick, tonight, this is a special edition of the Crowdus' podcast, not because of Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen, which is very exciting, but tonight is the debut of the newest intern for Trainwreck Sports, Carson Scoob Hayek.
We're doing nice.
We're going to try to bring him back in.
Yeah.
We're going to try to bring him back in, but hopefully Scoob will be able to join us. And he's going to be locking in. He's doing great work. As you saw, if you've been watching the Crowd Assist podcast recently, he's been doing some great breakdowns with fans before. And Maniac gave me the note. He is also the, let's see here. Let me get to my text messages. Backup quarterback for the Orchard Park Quakers. That's high praise. So we got a real QB in the building, unlike me and Slick L. I'm a great Madden QB. But we'll get Carson's input in here in a second. So Slick, how are you feeling 3 days removed from Dolphins Bills? Just how did you feel in the moment? How are you feeling now?
I mean, I would lie. I'd be lying if I said I'm still not a little upset, a little torn, but overall, I'm not too upset. And I think, moving forward is the best option we have here. There are going to be hiccups along the way. How rare it is for a team to have such a perfect season. And it was looking like the Bills were going to be one of those teams to go on one of those historical runs just like that. And, but no, adversity is what you need to create a Super Bowl caliber team. And that's exactly what we faced. There's a lot of hype behind the Dolphins going into that game. I think they played a good game. I don't think they played nearly up to what they need to if they're going to keep that up against all these elite teams that have Super Bowl aspirations. But that's nonetheless, it's no excuse. I mean, we didn't show up to our full potential either. And, stay off Twitter after a game like that, Bills Mafia, because people, they just don't have good things to say. They'll have excuses. We don't want to hear any of it. We didn't show up to play. The Dolphins did, in a way. It wasn't their best game either, but, we took the L and we had a chance to win the game. We just didn't execute on the offensive side of the ball, especially with the time management. So, learn from our mistakes and on to the next one.
In here, Carson, you already look like you're smoother than you were before internet-wise, so I think we're good here. Slick, I completely agree about not being on Twitter after these games. Because even the thing is, like, you see poor people on there just trying to provide context, like giving out a stat, just like, oh, like Bills had more yards, or the plays or whatever else, and then it just goes to war in the mentions right away. It's like automatically, like, and especially like the fan band, Dolphins Bills it's rowdy. It's rowdy out here. It feels like I'm reading like Ohio State, Michigan stuff, like these people going after each other. We might be at that point. Carson, how are you feeling better about Sunday's game? How did you feel about Sunday's game?
So, I mean, at first, it's still like normally I'm a little aggravated after Bills losses. I'm not. Like, the amount of injuries we had, it started to get so ridiculous. I can't ask for much out of someone. And we hung with a team that's supposed to be top 5 in most power rankings until the end. I mean, this is a game we definitely should have won. Like, Slick was saying, we had our moments. We could have scored multiple times or done things differently. Like, the punt was given right to us. Allen at the goal line to McKenzie. Davis could have hung on to one. It really could have went either way till the end. So, I think it is what it is. But Sunday is more important than last Sunday.
Same approach I did. I took the very. I'm trying to take the big picture approach with this whole season. I think we've been talking about it on this podcast for sure. Talked about it, but amongst anybody I talk Bills with in my life, that this season, if things started to get rocky at any point for the Buffalo Bills, that the trigger would be like that for everybody to start losing their shit. I was waiting for it for week 1. Then week 1 and week 2 was like bliss. This honestly, the Dolphins are the worst team they could have lost to too. Like, if it was to the Titans or the Rams, people would be feeling so much better. The fact that it was the Dolphins, after all this shit everybody was talking, and you know what? It's a humbling experience for everybody involved, because that's why you just can't come out here talking crazy 3 weeks into the NFL season. I don't care how good your team's been. We've seen it too many times. How many times have people declared Tom Brady teams dead after 4 weeks and then only to get blown up?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get on freezing cold takes. No. Let's look back at the keys of the game, though. I wanted to bring this up, our Labatt keys of the game, because this is wild. When we look at this, Number 1 key, stay responsible and cool, was big. It was the biggest key of the game, and we did not. I don't think we had a choice. I mean, there was nothing. There was no responsibility issue involved here. There was
certainly nothing cool about this game. You could say that in terms of weather. You could say that in terms of play, execution. Just all over the board. It was tough. And like you said, responsibility factor too. You saw the lack thereof get to Ken a little at the end of the game there. I love that, though. I mean, I don't really see the big media hype about it. I get it's a funny clip. It's memeable. But, I think that's awesome. But, it shows frustration amongst the entire franchise there.
Anything of the Ken Dorsey tirade at. I mean, how many times have we seen coaches do that? It just happened to be a Bills coach. Like, I feel like I see that video like every couple weeks from college or the NFL. Like, right. Just some random dude going crazy. But yeah, I love that shit. And every player has been consistent after it. Like, yeah, like we love to see that passion. You'd rather have a guy that cares than a guy that doesn't in that situation. Ken Dorsey is a psycho, though. Here's the thing. If you have to bring up in a press conference that you don't think you're a psychopath, that makes me think you're a psychopath. Why else are you saying it?
That's something.
It's one of those things. Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Are we good with Bills Dolphins? I think that's it. I'm ready. I've been ready to move on since Monday.
Yeah. Carson, you could say how you feel, but I think we summed it up. Don't need to say too much more. Yeah. It's one of those things that'll happen. It's a long season, and we'll learn from our mistakes. Hopefully carry them into the next one and execute a little better football.
We're looking forward now and moving on to the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, 100%.
There we go. And looking forward to the Baltimore Ravens Sunday afternoon, Slick and I were talking about it before you joined in, Carson. I mean, what more could you literally ask for in a football game in 2022 than Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen? It's a crime that this game isn't Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football. It is a crime. Like, I don't understand how you don't put these two on national TV. And now the way they're playing, I mean, shit, bro. Like, this game has the potential. We thought last week was gonna have fireworks, and it didn't end up that way. I feel like there's no doubt in my mind this week's gonna have fireworks. Like, we're gonna be in the 30s and 40s with the Ravens. It's gonna be a fun one. Scoob, there. How excited are you? Not even just for Bills Ravens, but to see Josh Allen, a Bills quarterback, in one of these scenarios, just going on. Like, you've been a fan, I'm sure, since you were little. Like, we've always heard of like Brady Rogers, Brady Manning, and to have like a matchup like this where you can say Allen Lamar and people are just like, oh shit, like that sounds awesome. Like, how does it feel to just be in one of those matchups, and how terrified of Lamar Jackson are you going into Sunday?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, it's surreal because back when I was 8, I used to, think to myself, it'd be so cool to have one of those of our quarterbacks. And now, like, Allen, he's him. Like, Allen is the guy. And as far as Lamar goes, like, there's gonna be a shootout. It has to be. Like, either defense really getting a stop, and it'll happen. Can't happen in a ton. So many fireworks. I'm so excited. It's gonna be great. Pure offense. Nothing better than that.
How heavy are you? How many things are you putting the Bills Ravens over into on Sunday? That's what I should ask.
For me or Carson? Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you. No, you're good. You just cut out for a second. Yeah, it's tough, but I think definitely I'm looking into it more than I was looking at that Dolphins game. A lot of people were saying on the over there, but that was a tricky one because we didn't really know what to expect there. This is one guaranteed, like Carson was saying, fireworks on the offensive side of the ball. The only thing that kind of worries me is the weather conditions in Baltimore. Expected to be a little bit of a sloppy one last time I checked, but that's right up the Ravens' alley, so I don't think that should affect them all too much. And Josh has shown that the weather isn't a huge factor for him. He's thrown piss missiles last year in like minus 15-degree weather. So if you can do that, I think you can play through a little bit of rain, and we should see some high-power offense here. I think the over is like, the line's like 52, 53 and a half. That's a very similarly high number to what it was in that Dolphins game, and that game didn't come anywhere close. I think this one, Vegas might have it right at the perfect amount. You might see like just a slight over, slight under here. It's going to be a sweat for bettors on that number, but if I had to lean one way or the other, definitely over. And I think we see a lot of touchdowns out of Josh and Lamar, ground through the air, the whole kit and caboodle.
I love that. Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with you guys. I would disbelief that the Bills have a quarterback that we can be like, oh my God, like it's just wild to think about. Never would have imagined it. But yeah, there's gonna be points galore, and definitely through the air. The thing about the Ravens for me is their defense is not that good this year. Like, they really haven't looked in any of these games. I mean, I guess they looked good against the Jets. Like, congratulations. But Mac Jones, they were opportunistic last week. Mac had 3 interceptions, but we've seen Mac throw some pretty bad picks already through this year, and that's the thing, a Mac Jones thing more than anything else. Josh Allen isn't going to put those balls, I think, the same way. I mean, Josh Allen, mind you, last week Josh Allen did have some throws that I think he would take back. There was another deep throw to a fullback that should have been intercepted that I was like, bro, like, I love Reggie Gilliam, but we don't need to be sending 40-yard bombs to the end zone to him. Yeah, I do think that this defense is going to be very susceptible to big plays and everything else. So there's a big opportunity for the Bills offense to kind of get back on track this week. And I say get back on track very lightly because they did put up 500 yards, and really just, if it comes down to it, like you mentioned at the beginning, Slick, game management is really the biggest thing it came down to. A lot of situational things. I think that the biggest thing we've talked about in the group chats are like the 3rd and shorts and 4th and shorts that have just been disappointing. And obviously, Allen misses the throw at the end. He would love to have that one back, but I think I heard a great point earlier on GR actually from Ross Tucker, who this is like going to be like 5th person hearing it from, whatever. Ross Tucker said that he had Greg Cosell on his podcast. And one of the points that he made this week is that if you drop back 71 times, just by the pure odds of it, something bad is going to happen on those throws. Like, it's just like you can't be perfect for 71 dropbacks, even 60 dropbacks. Like, it's just not expected. So for him to misfire in that moment, tough to swallow. But you got to imagine, we're talking about the heat and everything else. Like, Carson, have you ever played, like, what's the worst weather you've played any sport in? Like, could you imagine playing in 100-degree weather?
No, I can't for the 100-degree weather part. But I mean, there was one game we played in a tsunami. It was terrible, like nonstop rain, and we were on grass field that day too. It was horrible. But like back to the 100-degree part, guys were driving like flies. I felt bad. Like you could drink so much throughout the week, like, and be hydrated 110%, and you'd slow down with the cramp. I felt terrible for him.
Avatar show, he had full body cramps. He said his stomach, his legs, his quads, his calves, his arms, everything was cramping. You probably feel like you're like like, I couldn't even imagine what that feels like. The only cramps I ever get in my life is like sometimes in the middle of the night, my calf, you get a little calf cramp. You wake up and I'm like the biggest baby in the world, bro. Like, that shit, I'll be just like in the most pain of my life. I couldn't imagine a full body cramp in your body and then go run 20 miles an hour and try to catch the ball against another premier athlete. Like, yeah, just respected everybody on that field. Like, if the Bills pulled that off, I would have believed anything you could tell me about this team, that they would go undefeated, that they were going to win the rest of the games by 30, like anything, because it would have been so impressive for either team. It's impressive for the Dolphins too. But Slick, let's get into predictions for Ravens Bills. What do you got? Any score predictions, but just how do you think the game's going to play out as well?
Yeah, I think it's going to be relatively back and forth, but I think the Bills will catch the upper hand more towards the second half, maybe going in to the locker room at halftime. You know, I said this on our show last week. The Bills have just here and there, they've kind of sketched me out a little bit with how fast they start the game. Didn't really, you know, we typically get touchdown first drive, as we've seen, but then kind of slow, lower scoring first halves. In the game last week, that was the case, and then we didn't even score in the second half either. I think that doesn't happen this week. I think, you know, we get the ball rolling early, maybe a first drive touchdown, and then from there things pick up. We go back and forth, little bit of a shootout, but I think Bills get the upper hand. I think the defense really makes the impact here, as you were saying. I think Josh just abuses this defense, and our defense steps up in big drives when it matters, when it comes down to the shootout really going back and forth. I think our defense makes the plays. Hopefully we get some guys back, like Carson was saying. You know, it'd be lovely to see Jordan Phillips back out there, Ed Oliver maybe too, and get some stops when it matters most. And I think we get a high-scoring one, but the Bills' defense comes up big when it comes to Lamar getting a score when he needs to, as opposed to throughout the game when there's still a lot of game left to be played. If I had to go score prediction here, I think I'm just going to go high and go the over like everyone thinks it's going to be. I think I'm going to go 38-28. I think Josh puts close up to 4 TDs. I think he has a masterclass in this one. I think he really is upset with how he managed himself and the offense managed the clock late in that last game. You know, you saw that missed throw to McKenzie on the goal line when arguably you should have been running a different play in general, but you had McKenzie wide open. And, you know, that's a routine throw for Josh. He makes that every time, but every quarterback slips once in a while. And can we even blame Josh for that? No. Like, I trust that guy through hell and back. so what? You missed one throw. I'm not going to dwell on it. I think he comes into this one a little pissed off and shows out, and we get a high-scoring game.
All the things you just said, Slick. So I hope you're a future teller right now. Carson, what do you feel about Sunday?
Way off last week. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to start off probably good first 2-3 drives. I think it's necessary after the ending last week. You come out second half, you lay a dud. I'll call it what it is. So I think it's important that we come out fast, considering the offense we're playing too, and our defense is probably going to 7, 8 of the 11 starters. So I think if you just come out, develop a run game early. I mean, Baltimore's defense, they've really struggled against the run. 135 yards a game they've allowed this year. So if you can get the run game early, open it up with play action, I think you're not going to have to run more than 8 times. And my score prediction as far as that goes, I'm going to say 35-31. Buffalo, finally wins one of those one-score games that we've been looking for what seems like the last 2 years.
That would feel nice, I gotta say. And just for the gamblers out there, that would, as of right now, be enough to cover. So that would make a lot of people happy, I'm sure. You make an interesting point, though, there, Carson. We really do need to establish the run game, and I guess this is the game that we're going to do it, given the defense struggling against the run. I saw a crazy stat that Josh was accounting for some 75% of our yards downfield, whether it was pass or run. And it's you can't have our absolute bona fide stallion of a quarterback be your primary running offense. I think you got to get Singletary and Moss going. You saw Moss had a good carry last week at a point, but the run game, it's been inconsistent, and I think they got to turn it up a notch if we're going to win this game.
I completely agree. Nate Tice of The Athletic said that Josh Allen has the Russell Westbrook usage going on right now, which is never a guy that I want Josh Allen to be compared to in my life.
No.
Never that, please. So, but yeah, I'm with you. They need to get their run game consistent. They need to consistently stay at it. That's one of the things too, is they didn't even 71 dropbacks. Didn't even give it a chance, and they weren't running the ball well, mind you. They didn't. Anytime they ran on Sunday, it didn't look inspiring. Didn't look like they were getting pushed, all that stuff. So you could see why that was the game plan. But man, if there was any game to let Josh Allen not have to do so much, it would have been that game. And that's why else. I don't know. What makes me worried is why is James Cook not getting more run in these scenarios? Because I feel was so excited about high dynamic, and maybe it's just a rookies earning their spot type of thing. But we're seeing, Elam and Benford obviously were playing because they were good and out of necessity, but they're not afraid to trust those guys in those positions either. They didn't go get Xavier Rhodes until they had to, you know what I mean? And James Cook is not getting those opportunities. But neither of the running backs are at that point either. Singletary now had almost as many receiving yards as he has rushing yards on the season on Sunday. That's just that shouldn't be happening. But for this game coming up, you guys, I think we kind of talked through it all the whole way through. I think this defense for the Ravens has holes, especially in the secondary and especially with their scheme that the Bills are going to be able to take advantage of. It's not the Wink Martindale defense, the high pressure and everything else. So as long as Mitch Morris and the line is healthy, Gabe Davis's health I'm concerned about, but even without Gabe, I still think they're going to be able to take advantage of that. So I think the Bills are going to be able to score points. And this is the best defense that the Ravens have played all year. They lit up the Dolphins defense, but the Bills could have lit up that defense too if they took advantage of opportunities. The Patriots just lit them up last week, 26 points, and that was with 3 turnovers. So I think the Bills are going to be able to do that quite a bit. And the Ravens haven't seen a defensive line like this yet this year. I think we're going to put Lamar when he's dropping back into tougher situations than he's been in. Interested to see how the Bills do against an elite rushing attack, but Bills defense, even Sunday, only 212 yards. And you take out that one drive with the 2 deep passes to Waddle, and 12 yards besides that drive. I mean, that's pretty, or something like that. That's pretty impressive for a defense with all the injuries they had. So I'm going almost the same score as last week. Bills 42, and I think Ravens 24. I think that the Bills, if they would have lost last week, this was honestly a game every time I picked the schedule that I picked the Bills to lose was this game. Or if they would have won last week, sorry. But since they lost last week, the demeanor is just going to be so different going into this game, and I think that they're going to make a statement again.
I'm going to change my pick.
What do you got?
You just sold it to me that this defense isn't doing shit against us. So I'm keeping the offensive score here. I'm going 38 for the Bills, but I'm going 14 for the Ravens. Just two touchdowns. Lamar gets one of them on the ground, because he has no other option in the red zone when it comes down to it. Yeah, that's my final. Lock it in, 38-14. Yeah.
Game Lamar Jackson, as great as he is, can be put into hell throwing the ball. We've seen it happen before. And if there's any team that's going to do it to him this year, even with the injuries, playoffs last year, if any team we're going to be able to do it to, it's going to be this Bills defense, the way they've looked so far. And Von Miller, if Ed Oliver, who signs are pointing to him being back, and how good Von Miller has been and how good Gregory Rousseau has been, even with Ed's absence, this is the first time we're seeing the D-line. I mean, Jordan Phillips is probably going to be out again, but those three guys are really who I need on the D-line to stay full strength. We haven't seen that since week 1, and they had 7 sacks in week 1. So, that's what's encouraging to me. They miss Ed so much. People have not talked about the absence of Ed Oliver enough, and I think getting him back will be huge to how they can defend Lamar. All right, Carson, tonight, as we wrap up here, Bengals, 3.5-point favorites, hosting the Miami Dolphins. The Bengals in those all-white Bengal jerseys. How do you feel about those? Because, everybody's hyping them up. I don't know if I love them that much. I'm not going to
lie. I love it, but I find it weird. They mess my eyes up. It's like looking at a military costume, except with white and black. It's weird. I like it though. 8.5 out of 10.
Score prediction, Carson?
Dolphins run finally comes around. I can't see them winning 4 straight. 23-17 Cincinnati.
I love it. Slick, what do you think?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of conflicting things here. We've talked out throughout the day amongst the boys. There's a fine line. I've seen people say everyone's going to be on the Dolphins, which I've only seen a couple people say that, and that's ludicrous to me. Whereas I've also seen people, everyone's going to be on the Bengals, and it seems like a lot of the bets are on the Bengals. This is a reverse fade the public for me. I think this is one of those where everyone sees Bengals spread, they're favored. Why are they favored against this 3-0 team that's looked so good for what they actually are? I think this is a situation where everyone fades the public and are just dead wrong. I think the Bengals win this one 27-10. I don't know. I don't think we get a huge high-scoring game, and I think the Dolphins show that they are vulnerable at points, just like any given team in this league can be any given Sunday, Thursday, Monday, whatever you call it. So I think this is the downfall of the Dolphins here, and they start to look like maybe a regular team from here on out. They've kind of looked like a superpower threat, but I don't think that can last much longer. And the Bengals are due for one too, because they've looked they haven't looked nearly as powerful as they did at points last year. So I think the Bengals offense shows out a bit, and the Dolphins finally come to a halt.
Right now, 51% of the bets on the Dolphins. So it's pretty
really?
even.
Yeah. Wow.
Covers.com. Yeah, that's what we're looking at here.
Wow.
So it's not that bad. People are taking they just want the juice on the Dolphins. They're 3-0 team, 3-0 team getting 4 points.
And
Give
I
me
get
that
it.
all day.
The money line's like what, plus 160? Like that's good value on a 3-0 team. I totally see the point in that.
The Bengals are due. Like this is not a 1-2 team. This is not going to be a losing team. And it's really hard for me to believe, looking at if you would have asked me any point in the season, that after 4 weeks the Bengals are going to be 1-3 and the Dolphins are going to be 4-0. Like that's just going to be really hard for me to accept until I actually see it. And if the Dolphins do win, the hype is going to go fucking crazy, bro.
Man.
Crazy if they are 4-0 out of this. And honestly, for the sake of Bills fans and everything and schedules and standings and everything else, we want to tie up the Dolphins as soon as possible. Don't want to be hanging around with this game. They're going to have this head-to-head until late December. That's going to be hanging over the Bills, and that's when they'll have their opportunity to even that up. But until then, like if we're a game back, we're actually 2 games back. And it's going to be tough to deal with that all year long, I think, if it's a slip up. So let's get the Dolphins out of here quick. But actual football reasons, I think the traveling and all it being displaced and everything with the hurricane on a short week is tough. I think coming off that game that on Sunday, like I'm glad the Bills didn't have to come off a short week for this game because they'll have some time to recover. But just how much that team had to go through Sunday feels like a classic team gets a big win, has a letdown loss after. Like you see it in college all the time. We see it in the NFL all the time. Teams get a big upset win, and then the next week it just comes down. This is a perfect opportunity. I think the Bengals win. I think the Dolphins might cover, though. I think it's like 24-21, something like that. Like it's going to be a grind fest because I don't love this Bengals team. Haven't really loved them even before the season. So I don't think they're going to have the dogs to blow this team out, but I think the Bengals come away with it.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. I mean, for my sake, I took the Bengals spread, so I hope you're maybe like a point or two off. But yeah, hopefully, as a Bills fan, like you said, praying on the Dolphins' downfall. So it'll be nice.
Dwayne over at 2 Goalies 1 Mike, who says Tua is a fraud, which we might find that out tonight.
I tend to think the same, but I didn't say it, so you did. But yeah.
Joe Burrow versus Tua again. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for all the Alabama LSU highlights we're going to get to see tonight.
Yes. Oh,
I cannot wait.
That was great.
I cannot wait. Carson, before we go, how's OP looking this year?
3-1. You know, it's the unfortunate time you ask me that question right now because we just lost by 42 to Bennett. But, you know, we're looking to bounce back this week. We got Hutch Tech. So, I mean, we're excited. I mean, I get confidence in the group of boys that we have.
Like the Bills, there's always going to be a setback somewhere in the season that it's better to have that moment there, learn from it, and come back and beat some Hutch Tech ass on Friday night.
Yep.
So there we go.
Under the lights, baby. Let's go.
You know it.
Sponsors Outlet Liquor and Picasso's Pizza. Shout out to Slick L and intern Carson Scoob. Hi, thank you, Carson. Great debut here on the Crowd's podcast. Folks, serenity now. The week is over. The Bills will lose another game this year, Bills fans. I'm got to sing that right now, and we will move forward, and it'll work out regardless. And we're gonna go beat the Ravens' ass on Sunday. That's what's gonna happen. Because I don't care when the Bills lose a game, they are still far and away, in my opinion, the deepest and best roster in the NFL. And it's gonna be fun. Enjoy it on Sunday because it might be a roller coaster, but enjoy it. Cherish that. Go Bills. Have a great night, folks.
Good night now.